Now, let's get into it. I know everybody wants to know the title, Bitcoin 200K. Where is this coming from? If you guys are familiar with KASPA, the big thing with KASPA was it follows the power law. I'm not so sure anything follows the power law anymore. That's my take on it. But, if we were looking at Bitcoin power law and the model that's forecasting Bitcoin, it says that in 2025, we should see $200,000 Bitcoin. Now, we already have surged to 95,000, and various models are predicting anywhere from $130,000 to $200,000 Bitcoin by Q4 2025. Now, my original, purely based off the halving cycle, which obviously is extremely influenced by the power law, we would have expected 2025 to see $210,000 Bitcoin in general. And so this forecast is within the range of what you would expect from the traditional halving cycle impact on the price of Bitcoin. There are just things happening that are different. Now, we've had that first pump up in Bitcoin up to 110 or something like that. And so we will get another pump up. Usually every halving cycle, Bitcoin goes up, gets the euphoric phase, comes back down, settles, and then at that 18-month mark post-halving, pumps back up again, and then comes back down after that, and then it usually goes into a bear market. So we do have one more pump coming out of Bitcoin if we still follow the halving cycle, which I think we do. I think it's just suppressed, right? So what is that going to be? Well, obviously, I had already talked about over on sonofatech.locals.com, which is over here, my adjusted predictions for that, seeing that we really only hit that $110,000 mark. I'm starting to feel, right, not financial advice, that because of that, we're going to be a lot lower than that $210,000 mark. I'm really honestly thinking we're closer to that $130,000 low end that's being predicted by the power law models in this particular case. So what this says is that Bitcoin's price has rallied 11% this week, its best weekly return in 2025, and its highest 7-day growth since early November of 2024. Bitcoin also reached $95,000 on April 25th for the first time since February 24th. 21st Capital co-founder Sina mentioned that Bitcoin reclaimed the power law price. The power law's predictive accuracy stems from Bitcoin's network growth following Metcalfe's law, where value scales with the square of users. Based on Sina's Bitcoin quantile model, reclaiming the power law price keeps Bitcoin on track to hit a price target of $130,000 and $163,000 before the end of 2025. As illustrated in the chart right here, Bitcoin is currently in the transition range where Bitcoin accumulation occurs. Once it breaks into the acceleration zone, the crypto asset enters the rally's 33 to 66% range, progressively targeting 106,000, 130,000, and 163,000 over the next few months. However, anonymous Bitcoin analyst APSK32 predicted Bitcoin price target could be as high as 200,000 in 2025. The prediction is based on Bitcoin's power curve time contours, there we go, which overlay Bitcoin's price movement across a 4-year cycle. That's the halving cycle, 2013, 2017, 2021, and now 2025, with the next one being in 2029. The chart suggests a strong performance in Q3 and Q4 2025, with the analyst noting that Bitcoin's historical 4-year cycle remains intact. And I do think the historical cycle is still intact. I do believe that it is, because we had an all-time high. I don't think that we have the altcoin cycle is intact. I don't think that we're seeing that rising tide of Bitcoin raise all ships anymore necessarily, right? Some ships, yes, but not all of it. And I do think that it's probably closer to the prediction of 130 to 163,000 than I think it is to the 200,000 Bitcoin in Q4. But I hope I'm wrong, right? You get euphoric enough of an impact, like let's say it's towards the top end. Like if we start cresting over 160,000, then I would expect us to be in a euphoric phase where we do crack $200,000 Bitcoin. Will that be the case? I don't know, right? Since the beginning of 2024, Bitcoin and gold have posted new highs in the market, with each asset outperforming the other during specific periods. As illustrated in the chart, Bitcoin and gold achieved new highs between March and August 2024. However, in Q3 of 2024, gold spearheaded the rally, surpassing Bitcoin's performance. By Q4, Bitcoin regained momentum, outpacing the precious metal and maintaining its lead until March of 2025, when gold again took the lead. Gold is still leading Bitcoin, but has dropped 6% since hitting new highs. While Bitcoin has gained 11%, Cointelegraph reported that Bitcoin tends to follow gold's directional bias with a lag of 100 to 150 days. Based on that narrative, it is possible that Bitcoin could lead gold in the coming weeks. Similarly, the US dollar index dropped to a new 3-year low on April 21, which further fueled the likelihood of a rally for risk assets. Cointelegraph reported that multi-year DXY lows have been historically bullish for Bitcoin. Crypto analyst, venture founder also pointed out. Now, let's talk about, obviously I've talked about my strategy, which was buying a bunch of Bitcoin miners. It sort of worked for a little bit. It stopped working now. I bought S19s, S19 Pros, S19Js, a couple of those, that sort of thing, previous generation ASIC miners. The problem is that we're seeing an acceleration in the technology of ASIC manufacturing from Bitmain and competitors that have made it extremely difficult for those to come to the price point that, say, like the S9s did on previous cycles. I do expect that the actual price of the miners will increase, possibly even thanks to tariff impacts, etc. But I don't think it'll be to the point to where you will be able to mine yourself out of that hole. I think you will have to churn out and sell that equipment now. So that is kind of what I'm looking at overall, and getting into even, next time or next cycle into the latest equipment that's available during the bear market. And I think that might be kind of just the natural progression of technology within the Bitcoin mining space, and unfortunately has really suppressed the profitability of those miners. Obviously, power cost is going to be the biggest guiding factor, and that's really difficult for me right now because obviously I'm getting my units hosted. Now, I have extremely good hosting prices, and I believe Coastal has even just dropped their prices again to 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour. I think undercutting a lot of people. So, but it's still, those S19s are either, like, the S19s are S19 Pros are barely profitable. S19s are not. You have to put custom firmware on it, and that's a little difficult to do. And Northern Crypto and Tech says need to find a used S21 to replace the S19. And I think a lot of people will be trying to do that, right? If you do want to get hosting, I mean, you can talk to Coastal. I know, like I said, they just dropped some of their stuff. I'm not a big proponent of hosting. Like I've said before, not your power, not your miners, but I do also understand, because I've been put in very precarious situations where I have to use it. That I understand that some people might just have to be in that position for the time being. If your equipment's profitable enough, it's worth it. If it's not, obviously it can be rough. There's also, I know Terra hosting. They're a little bit newer, but have heard really good things about Terra as well. I don't know what their rates are at right this second, though. So anyways, just some thoughts and ideas behind that. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. If you would like to see more from this particular episode, take a look up here. Don't forget to also subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support me directly, you can go to sonofatech.locals.com and become a member. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.